Thank you. Well, good evening and Happy New Year. I call this regular, I would like to call a city council meeting of Tuesday, January 16, 2024 to order at 6:43 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Chen.
Please rise, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart, and repeat the words. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Our attorney has an announcement at this time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members, members of the public. Mayor Harrington suffered an exposure to COVID, and out of abundance of caution, he didn't want to come in and attend the meeting. We attempted to see if he can join us virtually, but due to the technology that is necessary for that under the new law, we were unable, unfortunately, to accommodate that. So he will miss this meeting.
Thank you. Clerk, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Wu,
Here.
Councilmember Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding,
Here.
Councilmember Menchaca. Here.
We will now have some announcements from our Chief City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on the city's online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. When speaking, please state your name for the record. If you wish to receive City Council agendas, please sign up on the city's website.
Approval of agenda order. So are there any objections to the agenda order?
None for me.
Hear none. The agenda order is approved. Is there any motion to approve I'm sorry. Okay. Next item, please.
Presentations. Recognition of new Community Emergency Response Team members. Fire Engineer Takahiro Suzuki will make the presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, as well as the CERT program here again. We like to do this at least twice a year to interact with our community and make sure that our community is safe if there is a major disaster. Vice Mayor Wu, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney, thank you for having us. Kind of the agenda, I'd like to call them up. If we could take a picture, would you guys be willing to take a picture with us with their CERT presentation? And then a word from Chief Wallace as well, please. Thank you. So these members, they've put in over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they dedicated a whole weekend, 20 hours of training through a FEMA CERT program, which basically preps them for a disaster, right? Currently, we are a train and release program where we train our members and then we release them to their public or their community. We're not a train and retain yet, but we like to get there. But these members have shown their skills. They've learned a lot, and if you ask them personally, I'm sure they had a lot of fun and learned an incredible amount of life-saving skills for their community as well as themselves and their families. So I'd like to call them up and have them recognized. Luis Aragon, Cade Bertano, Wayne Chan, Stephanie Fernandez, Jalen Hermosa, Priscilla Hernandez, Felix Lai, Benson Ma, Armando Morales, Aurora Pacheco, Debbie Saito, Scott Schaldenbrand, Cynthia Talavera, Heidi Tittman, Kiana Toma, Vincent Tran, Gloria Vite, Amapola Young, and George Young. Chief Wallace, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Engineer Suzuki, and good evening, Vice Mayor Wu and members of the City Council. Steve Wallace, Fire Chief for the City of San Gabriel. And I just want to take a minute to thank you for your dedication, not only to the training and taking time out of an entire weekend, which we know everybody's schedules today are just packed end to end with things, but the dedication you're showing to the training and to the community is amazing to us. We know that in the case of a major disaster, that services will be overwhelmed, and we're counting on CERT members like yourselves to be on the front line of the community and take care of yourselves and take care of your neighbors while we triage and while we figure out how to get there and get the services that you need. This is a vital, vital program, and it's thankless hours. The training is scary. You've taken on a lot of information in a very short amount of time, put through a whole bunch of different scenarios, and now, as Engineer Suzuki said, you're released out into the public. So we count on you. We appreciate everything you've done, and we appreciate your commitment to service in the community. So thank you very much.
City council members, would you like to take a picture with all of us? Thank you so much.
Can we have some of you guys on the bottom row here? I'm gonna need you two to probably come on this side here.
You're going to do the butt ears?
Perfect. Okay, you can squeeze in just a little bit. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, next item, please.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. Our first comment this evening was submitted through the website portal. It comes to us from Jacqueline Candelaria, resident, and reads as follows. I'm very concerned about the recent dog attacks that have taken place in the last 3 months in our city. The main culprit responsible for these dog attacks is an irresponsible pet owner who can be found on a bike with 2 unleashed pit bulls. There have been many sightings of him in San Gabriel. His dogs have been responsible for 2 incidents that I'm aware of. 1 dog victim in 1 incident required medical treatment. Residents are fearful and don't feel safe walking their dogs knowing there is a risk of an attack. I myself have not walked my dog in San Gabriel since November when these incidents began. What can be done about this besides taking the watch and wait approach? How many dogs have to be attacked before something is done about it? That concludes the comment. Our first in-person speaker is Barbara Messina.
Good evening, council members. I'm very happy to be here this evening. I'm going to have to speak really quick for 3 minutes to give you my presentation. I'm here as president of the Seroptimist of Alhambra, San Gabriel, San Marino. And I know that I have packets for all of you, but I know the city manager has provided you with the information on the evening as far as the no chicken. This is the first class event, okay? So it's a nice event. It's an afternoon luncheon. It's not just a luncheon, it's a whole program. And if you see the calendar that we printed out, it's going through the 90 years, not only of what women in Seroptimist have accomplished, but events that have happened during the world at that time. And they have provided an outstanding program demonstrating all of this. And I'm really hoping that you can appreciate the benefit of this program. San Gabriel has been a member of Seroptimus since the early 60s. And though we are celebrating our 90 years, our programs have included women from your community, women throughout the San Gabriel Valley. Our applicants come from applications from ELAC, from PCC. So these are women that are seeking to improve a lifestyle for themselves and their family. In the packet that I have for all of you, I hope you can take the time to read the winners of the last events that we had from 2018, 2019. 2020 was pandemic, so 2022, 2023. So you can see the caliber of the women that we're helping and where our money goes. So this has got a lot of information for you, and I have included a brochure of our organization and the different programs that we offer women and girls. So I'm hoping that not only individually, but Denise, I'm hoping you can maybe put a little touch on your vendors like Athens to buy a table so that all of you can attend, so that we have representation from the city of San Gabriel would be really nice. So like I said, I have a packet for each. Oh, I did it in my record time. So Mark didn't think I could do it, but I can do fast enough. If you can hand out them, I appreciate your time, and I hope you have the time to go through the packet and inform yourself of what we're doing. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Andrew.
Good evening, City Council. I've spoken on this subject before. It's the Assembly Bill 481, which is the use of our law enforcement's use of military equipment. I brought up the policy 707, which I felt was not worded as the law was stated under the military equipment. You know, the policy states, you know, includes but not limited to the following. The law does not state not limited to the following. It says includes the following. So that kind of opens it up to basically someone's interpretation. But what I'd like to speak to is under the military equipment, bullet number 10, and it reads, specialized firearms and ammunition of less than 50 caliber, including assault weapons as is defined by section 30510 and 30515 of the Penal Code. So what that includes is for what we have in our arsenal is the AR-15 rifle, the Colt Commander M4 5.56. Now, the policy was approved by the City Council in 2022, July of 2022. And I know Council Member Eric was not here at the time. It was Karina. But what I think what happened in this policy was that, like I said, the wording does not reflect the law. The policy needs to reflect the true law, because this is not a suggestion, it's a law. And the other thing is that it states on that item number 10, it says firearms and ammunition. So on the policy, it lists the rifle, the AR-15, Commando, M4. But what it doesn't list under munitions is the bullets that we use in that rifle. So what we're doing now is we're violating the law. We're in violation of AB 481 because we never approved the use of those bullets. And I guarantee you, every one of our vehicles has one of these rifles in it with those bullets in it, and we're violating the law, okay? This needs to be corrected because this is something that needed to be approved by the city council in order for them to use this equipment. And this was back in July of 2022. The other issue is that, you know, we're still waiting for the annual report, which is, it's going on 2 years now. It's already been over a year and a half since the annual report was promised, and we haven't seen anything in a year and, in 18 months. July of last year is when Chief Harris promised that we would have it sometime around July 1st, and we haven't seen it as of yet. So not only are we violating the law by not approving the bullets, we're also violating the law by not having this annual report presented to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chastity Jennings Nunez.
Hi, good evening. So prior to this meeting, this regular city council meeting, you conducted interviews for the vacancies on the HERE Commission created by several members' terms ending. And I want to thank you for being so thoughtful in your choice and in your consideration of first choosing some really incredible people to be members of the HERE Commission. You're also considering our work plan for 2024 as part of your agenda later tonight. So I just wanted to share with you a really wonderful outing that occurred this past Saturday. Vice Chair Vicky Goto coordinated a tour of the Japanese American National Museum and then a post-tour discussion with the director of the National Center for the Preservation of Democracy at the Japanese American National Museum. The wonderful part was that 5 commissioners attended, myself, Vice Chair Goto, Commissioner Brenhag, Commissioner Khan, and Commissioner Chavez. But what was even more wonderful was that 5 city staff members also attended. Our city manager, Mark Lazaretto, our human resources director, Edward Macias, the human resources management analyst, Mai Lamb, community services director, Rebecca Perez, and our community services manager, Matthew Morales-Stevens. So it was a really wonderful group of people that came together to see an exhibit called The Bias Inside Us. And this is a project of the Smithsonian Institute that explores the social science, psychology, and consequences of implicit bias. It's open until January 28th. And if you haven't ever visited the Japanese American National Museum, I would strongly encourage you to do so. And if you have visited, that you go and see this particular exhibit because it raised some really great points in our post-discussion session. And it's just an example, I think, of the good work that the HERE Commission is trying to do and our constant attempt to educate ourselves, even though this is all of our passions that are on the commission. And I hope that when you consider our work plan that you will also consider continuing to support and encourage these types of outings. And I want to say that we appreciate the funding that you provided for this last event and hope that you will allow us to do similar types of education and training in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I have no additional speaker cards.
Okay, next item, please. There's another public comment, please.
Good evening. I didn't have a chance to fill out a card. Oh, okay. I didn't have a chance to fill out the card, but I wanted to make a follow-up comment to an online comment I made for the last meeting in regard to the dog attacks. I see Jacqueline Calendari, I saw her post on Nextdoor with regard to the pit bulls, and this is a repeat offender. He's also been in my neighborhood and charged a small dog. But my comment last time was in regard to these huskies, and since that meeting, I learned that there's another set of huskies, white huskies, that have been loose in the neighborhood and have charged my neighbor's dog across the street. The first attack was a week before Christmas, and my neighbor's dog nearly died, and another neighbor that lives in Alhambra barely made it. He is making a recovery. But what I'm really concerned about is who do we turn to? Three of us have called the police department, and they passed the buck to the Humane Society. And then you call the Humane Society, and if you do get an answer, they dismiss you. They have nowhere for you to turn. So who do we turn to? I wrote to Aldo Cervantes, and I had a long discussion with him about that, and he said he was going to look into whose responsibility is it. These dogs, I am concerned for my dog. I have not walked my dog since December 7th, and I will not until I know that these dogs are locked up. Don't we have animal control officers that go out and investigate? I mean, I know that that's asking a lot, but the police department, they say that that's not their jurisdiction. So they were passing it to the trained shelter. Do we have trained shelter people that go out and make sure that these dogs are secured, that their fences are high so that we can't be terrorized when we're walking our little animals? And my other neighbors, that dogs got attacked, they haven't been out either. That dog is alive only because the older lady that had a stick and beat the two dogs. The man whose dog was seriously, viciously attacked didn't have a stick or anything, and he would beat one dog with a flashlight, and then the other dog would start taking his dog away, beat that one. I mean, I can't tell you, it is terror in our neighborhood, and I'm warning everybody that has a small dog and children in strollers to be very careful. So I turn it over to you. I'm hoping that you can follow through and find out who is responsible for making sure that our neighborhood is safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if you don't mind, I can respond to a couple of those. We can't talk about them in detail, as you all know, due to Brown Act issues. On the dog attack issues, we are working with the animal control in order to figure out where our rules start and where their rules start, and our police department and community development and the Humane Society are all working together to figure that out. We have not heard of any additional issues since those husky attacks in December, so if any future issues happen, I would urge the community to report those directly to City Hall. I will tell you, posting something on Nextdoor is not a report, so please make sure you either send an email to Aldo or to the City Hall or come in and report that, and we'd be more than happy to continue following up. We do have leash laws, so if there are folks that are out there with their dogs in public that don't have them on leash, we can do something about that when we find those, and we will do something about that. And then as far as the AB 481 policy, just for council's information, that's scheduled on the HERE Commission January meeting, and then will be brought back before the council in one of the February meetings.
Clarification regarding the dogs. So the public should not be calling the police, they should be calling City Hall, because there's a difference there.
If there's an emergency, I would encourage anybody to call 911 and to report that directly, or if it's a non-emergency but they're still concerned and need the police, you can call the business line, but you can always call 911 if there's an emergency. If it's a situation where there's nothing that's happening at that time, they can call City Hall, and we will document that and work with PD and with the Humane Society.
Thank you. So any audience would like to address council? I see none, so I'll close the public comment. Next item, please.
Consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the City Council or public requests separate discussion. We have not received a request from the public to pull an item. However, we have received a public comment on item 4F. Mr. Vice Mayor, would you like me to read that at this time?
Yes, please.
The comment comes to us from Marjan Abubo and reads as follows. My name is Marjan Abubo of Lozu Drury, and I am commenting on behalf of SAFER and its members who live, work, and recreate in and around the city of San Gabriel. After attending the December 19 City Council meeting, SAFER maintains our position that the council must require an EIR before making a final approval on the project. We incorporate prior comments, including the letter we submitted this week. An EIR, rather than an MMD, is required if there is a fair argument that a proposed project may have an adverse environmental impact. SAFER submitted rebuttals prepared by Dr. Sean Smallwood to the project representative, Ms. Phan's, oral comments. Dr. Smallwood and his associate, Noriko Smallwood, are experts in the field of wildlife ecology, and their academic backgrounds and extensive experience demonstrate this. His rebuttals are supported by another site visit performed on December 23, 2023, which reinforces the site's undeniable value to wildlife and the adverse impacts that would result. As SAFER explains in our letter, Ms. Phan's assertions regarding the project's impacts are inaccurate and unsupported by substantial evidence. Dr. Smallwood's site visits and expert opinions on this matter underline the importance of preparing an EIR to adequately analyze issues related to this project. CEQA's Fair Argument Standards states an EIR is required if any substantial evidence in the record indicates that a project may have an adverse environmental effect, even if contrary evidence exists to support the agency's decision. Therefore, even if Ms. Phan's oral comments disagree with Dr. Smallwood's expert findings, the disagreement must be resolved in an EIR and not an MND. Considering the record before the council, the city must prepare an EIR for this project. That concludes the comment.
Thank you. So next item, well, would any council member like to pull on items for separate discussion? I see none. So do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the full consent agenda.
Okay, 1 second.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion made by Councilwoman Manchanka and second by Councilman Member Chen. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Okay, next item, please.
We have no public hearing this evening. Our next item is continued business item A, consideration of adoption and direction on a new sister city and friendship city policy for the city of San Gabriel. City Manager Lazaretto will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. So before you tonight is a returning item. Last July, we spoke about whether the city wanted to entertain having our own policy for how we govern any future applications for sister city or friendship city relationships, and how we govern those existing two relationships that we have. So since that meeting, I've been able to compile what are really the best practices from other policies throughout the country, and I've presented a policy for the city council to consider. When I say best practices, I just want to point out that there are really no laws or regulations related to how you work with sister cities. There is an organization that was started back when President Eisenhower started Sister Cities, that program, and it's called Sister Cities International. They provide guidance, they provide suggestions, and a way to register those partnerships, but they really are, again, only guidance or suggestions. So this policy and the rules related to it are really what San Gabriel thinks should be for San Gabriel. So if you have any concerns with the way it's written, or you think something should be changed, that's almost entirely up to the council. There aren't any real rules or laws that we need to follow. You'll see one of the main themes in the policy is that when I put it together, I stress that if we're going to consider a new sister city or friendship city relationship, my suggestion in the policy is that we have some local organization, whether it be a group of residents or business owners or some sort of a nonprofit that is going to be a champion for that sister city relationship. And the reason for that is because, as we've seen with the two relationships that we currently have, if there aren't folks that are actively involved over the years, as staffs and councils change over time, then those partnerships have the likelihood of going dormant, and you end up with something that people spend a lot of time and energy on, but then sort of die out and don't become effective any longer. So again, while it's not a requirement, my suggestion is that if we consider any future applications, that there is that local group that will take ownership, so to speak, of maintaining that partnership. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the way the policy is currently written, there is little to no budget involved in forming these relationships or continuing to have receptions or meetings. We have budgets throughout our city budget. We have pots of money for meetings and events, but very small amounts. We already handle receptions of dignitaries and other tourist groups with tours here of the council chambers and with refreshments and small tokens like lapel pins or mugs or other city paraphernalia. And we do that through our current budget, and so it's all considered part of our daily business. If the council envisions more grandiose ideas like having formal receptions or lunches or dinners with these groups, that would require a separate budget. The way the policy is currently written, that would come back to council on a case-by-case basis and would be approved by council at the time that that all occurs. And the same thing with gifts. If we wanted to give something that is more ceremonial or has more value to it than what our small gifts are, then again, that would be something that comes back to council for approval on a case-by-case basis. Council has the ability to change that if you'd like and add a budget as part of our upcoming budget we'll consider as the year goes on. But the way it's currently drafted, if you adopt it that way, then there would not be anything more than a small amount of staff time and a budget associated with that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council has, and there's really the option of adopting the policy as it's written, changing the policy with your own ideas, or moving forward without a policy at this time and sort of continuing on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And does any council member have factual questions for Mark, for staff to clarify this report? See none? And so, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do, Mr. Vice Mayor. Andrew.
Good evening again, Council. What I want to speak to is that on the sister city issue is, I know we don't have any type of policy, but I would like to see that we have a policy that we do not have a sister city that is a city in a state nation that is an adversary to America, because and I just want to bring up just one person in mind. There was a suspected a spy by the name of Fang. She went by Christine Fang back in 2011 to 2015. She went ahead and was doing fundraising and stuff for different types of council members and elected officials. There was Dublin City Mayor, Council Member Eric Swalwell, who is now a member of Congress, U.S. Representative Judy Chu, San Jose Council Member Ash Collard, Representative Mike Honda, and a Fremont Mayor Bill Harrison. These are just a few of the people that she embedded herself in their group, right? She was doing fundraising for them, so of course they gravitated towards him because of the fundraising, right? So, and I'm just using this, she was from China, right? And we have a big Chinese population here. I don't want to be labeled as xenophobic. I'm just concerned that we do not align ourselves with any type of adversary countries, nations, that are enemies of our nation here. Let's not be the ones that become part of this news article. The FBI states the Chinese Communist Party knows that today's mayors and council members are tomorrow's governors and members of Congress. So that includes you, right, council members. The FBI Director, Chris Wray, reading a quote from him, "The greatest long-term threat to our nation's information and intellectual property and to our economic vitality and to the counterintelligence and economic espionage threat is from China." Okay, so that's just one country, right? We have the countries such as Iran, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, many adversary countries that would just love to embed themselves within our city governments so that they could move on, to get to our federal governments. So we need to be very careful that part of our policy does not include any adversary nations to this country. Thank you.
Thank you. And any comment?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I have no additional cards.
Okay, so it's now time for council's discussion. Who would like to start first?
Okay,
So-
I'll just start. You know, this is one of the times I wish Mayor Harrington was here, because this is, and I'm saying that, but this is one of the areas that he's been involved with for so many years. And so, but I think we had a really good discussion previously, and I really appreciate the policy. I do not agree, there's alternatives to the recommendation, 2, 3, 4, which is adopt no policy. We must have a policy. These are kind of the types of discussions that I know are being brought up as we are involved with our community, we're involved with different groups, and so it is so important for us to have a policy so everyone knows where the city of San Gabriel stands. The only thing I wanted to ask about is the budget, because I know that there's, when we have these sister cities or friendship cities, I mean, we start as a friendship, which is less formal. There's always exchanges. That's just part of the protocol. That's part of the culture. And I just feel we need to have something, some kind of budget. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know, do we start with 2,000, 5,000, or do we just bring it to council every single time? I don't know how many times that would be, but I just think we do need to do a bit more than what the city manager has explained, again, because that's part of the culture. And I do value these type of possibilities with other cities. I think, you know, there is, you know, there's so much that we can gain, not just the cultural part, but also the tourism, you know, learning how to do business together. I think it could benefit our city in tremendous ways, but I just feel like there should be some kind of budget. And if we exceed the budget, then it comes back to council. Obviously, if we enter into anything, starting with the friendship, I looked at the attachment. I think the attachment is strictly for sister cities, so that's at a different level. But if it's a friendship, City Manager, can you explain to us, what does that mean? So if how do we decide, I'm sorry, once we decide we want to have a friendship city, does that just go to the mayor at the time and there's a letter that's written, or can you just explain the policy or the protocol with this policy?
I would be happy to, ma'am. So listed in the policy is a definition of sister city and friendship city. Again, those are taken from other policies, but we could make that whatever we want. Really what the difference is a sister city is a more formal relationship. Usually some ceremonial proclamation is signed by the mayors or the heads of both of the government entities. And sometimes there are signing ceremonies where at one point it goes to the first city and they sign that in front of the council and everybody else. And then it comes back and it gets signed by the other council, and then those copies get presented. The examples of sister city partnership agreements are in the staff report, and that's the more formal version. The friendship city is sometimes looked at as the first step, kind of the dating step. I think one of the council members mentioned last time, before you get married. And it can be anything from a letter from each mayor saying, you know, thank you, we would love to be a friendship city with you and start to create a cultural and economic partnership with your city over the next several years. It still does have to get approved by the council because that's a formal action that the mayor is taking on behalf of the full council. So the short answer to your question is it would still take a full council action, but it is a much less binding and less intensive back and forth than with the sister city.
Thank you for that. And then, let's see. There really isn't any quota either here, so it would be a process, and I'm asking the city manager just for clarification. It would have to be brought by a council member. You know, it could be one, it could be two, but it has to be first brought up to us. We have to have a relationship with a local group of residents, organization. Is that how the dating begins here?
That's exactly right. And I should point out, it does not need to start with a friendship city. It can start with a sister city. It doesn't have to take that first step. So as we've had in the past, we've had a community group that came forward to request a partnership. And we would have to have at least one council member that supports that and recommends bringing that forward. And then once that happens, we bring that to the council for a full vote, and then we would go from there. But it doesn't need to start with a friendship city
Okay.
or to go to a sister city.
So it can go directly to sister as opposed to friendship, okay. And then lastly, I'm going to wait to hear from my colleagues about this, but I am not comfortable putting down anything about adversary or anything about that, about a country. I think that's a decision that we can make when on a case-by-case basis. I think there is a lot of personal bias, personal opinions about which countries are adversaries, which are not. I think at the time, whoever the council is here could address it with more thoughtfulness. I've heard Mexico being an adversary, you know. I've heard so many other countries being adversaries, and a lot of times it's just because perhaps you don't agree with either their religion or their actions. Even the U.S., I travel quite a lot, and people think the U.S. are quite, adversaries of so many different countries. So I prefer not to include that in this policy, but I'm open to listening to my colleagues of how they feel about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Menchaca. So who will be next? Chen?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Councilwoman Menchaca. It's very hard to, once you get into those kind of value judgments, it's hard to quantify what countries are your adversary unless you're actually in a full declared war with a country. And so that it gets kind of dicey to put down rules in that way. But the main thing that I appreciate with city manager and the way he described that instead of just getting into these kind of relationships, I like that our policy, or as it's written now, of course we can always change it, but that it emphasizes that we need to have some kind of local group that's going to take responsibility for having an actual relationship, or else, like we said, at the examples that we've had over the years, where we somehow became sister cities with this city and that city, and then it just kind of goes by the wayside or disappears. And so it is, I like that kind of stipulation that either some kind of organization or person or whatever it is, a group has a vested interest in really being active. And so I like that part. The difficult part that I guess I'd have to listen to my colleagues and try to figure out how it would work is what Councilwoman Menchaca mentioned about having a defined budget. And that's a little, I don't know how we're going to do it, but maybe, well, again, as city manager said, it's all up to us and we can decide what we want to set that budget to, but that's just kind of might end up being an arbitrary, a few $1,000 or something, you know. But yeah, but again, I do appreciate what city manager said about kind of emphasizing that whatever organization, local organization, wants that relationship, they will be the primary organization or group to shoulder most of the cost of, this, whatever the relationship ends up being, friend or a sister city. But and I read through the policy as it is now, and it does mention, most of the travel, if whatever interested organization on our end wants to have that relationship, if those members of that group want to travel abroad or whatever, that will be on that organization's dime and will not, for the most part, as my understanding goes, will not be paid for by our taxpayers for the most part. But yeah, so that's kind of my feelings at the moment. So I'm open to hearing my colleagues' discussion.
Thank you, Councilmember Chan.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, actually, I appreciate the staff to prepare this the ordinance for the sister city and the friendship city. At least we have moving forward, have a step, and it also the staff report also say that what it's established by the President Eisenhower in 1956. It's very important. It's to say, the President, the reason for the people for different culture could be understand, appreciation, and the celebration their difference while building the partnership at the two cities. So our city have the HERE Commission. HERE Commission also want like a multicultural, okay, from a different ethnic group. So sometimes, I'm first generation immigration. First time, I also wonder like, hopefully the people can understand where I come from, right? We have our own culture too. Should be both understanding. We respect the American culture, but if you say the multicultural, you should be also learning some culture from the different group people. Okay, current, if the whole world, something happen, even like we will see some current famous war, it's because the government, the innocent is for the people, both sides the people. It's really innocent. We can see that. Really sad. Okay, but we need if we can learning some culture from different people, we should be, hopefully no war, right? We want a peace, but at least we can reduce the war with this kind of opportunity. If you want a picture, that's related to the federal government, okay? But for our local city government, so we, first of all, we have HERE Commission, we have the inclusive and the multicultural, okay. And by the way, and also it's the purpose for us establish this kind of relation. It's also for our city current, the economic, okay. We have the existing 2 hotel. For the future, probably have the 3rd hotel. So for our tax revenue, also we need more tourists come to our city. Okay, if they come to live in our city, we have more tax revenue, and they eat and expense in our city, we have more tax revenue. We have more tax revenue, we can support our police department, fire department, public work, and street paving too, right? Nothing is free. You have to try and make more the revenue. So that's why I think, first of all, the cultural exchange. Second, it's really for our benefit, for our city. It's bring the more business to our city. Okay, bring more to this city also benefit our residents. Okay, it's a win-win situation, and for the financially, and so yeah, we maybe can mark, if we approve it, maybe can study how much cost for the a reception, okay, estimate how much budget, Another one, I think I have some suggestion. Maybe I don't know. We have some committee with the two hotel. They have the special fund. The purpose also, this special fund purpose is to try to advertising to encourage the outside the city or outside the country when they come to the United States, they don't need to go to the LAX, don't need to go to the downtown LA, pay the higher, same level and higher the room rate, maybe come to our city, and our city have the more revenue too. Okay, so this committee maybe I think the Mark can bring to this committee to asking their opinion if they can cooperate it. Maybe they can spend this kind of budget to if just in case needed. And another things like Councilman Chen mentioned for the local nonprofit organization, if they already applied it, maybe they can help to this kind of expense too. One thing I really concerned because initiated by some local nonprofit organization, but some local organization maybe it's a long time like how do you call? I always had to say this on is Seroptist, the woman. They have the 90 years, but some organization maybe less, just 3 years, 10 years. After then, they don't have, maybe they not existing. But I suggest so if they not existing, that this kind of nonprofit organization, if another nonprofit organization willing to help, so we can still keep this kind of relationship to moving forward. So not like just dedicated only one initiator organization. And financially maybe also can help more. So we have the 3 options to do that, and the city have the budget, or go to the TMID, so I had TMID if they can cooperate it, and plus the local, the nonprofit organization. Maybe if we put it together, it should be reasonable. And for city, also spend little money to the advertising. Also, it's help the city have the more, eventually just more tax revenue for the good for our local business, and they have more business come to our city, and also if we have more revenue, it will be help the whole city, the operation. That's my comments. Thank you.
Just clarification that what we call the TMID, for those who are wondering, that's our city's tourism investment management, tourism management and investment district.
Tourism marketing.
Marketing.
And I can't remember the I, but it's district.
Okay.
And that is funded entirely by hotel stays. Everybody who stays in the hotel puts, I think it's 1% that gets set aside, and it's members from the Hilton, the Sheraton, the Curio when it gets built, and the city sit on that board and decide how those funds are spent. And it's
Okay, so it's funded by
coming up
those
in our
hotels.
future couple of council meetings. We'll have a report on the annual report, and then also on re-upping or extending the TMID for another 5 years over the next several months. So we'll be talking very heavily about that, and at that point, we can talk to the group about whether that's something they would support.
Okay, and that their purpose is to market the city of San Gabriel to the rest of the world.
That's right.
Thank you.
I just had one clarification too. So, Councilmember Ding, are you recommending that we just don't have a budget, just do a case by case as it's written? Or are you recommending any kind of budget, or you're waiting for the TMID group, and so therefore no budget?
Actually, I want to see the rest of the council member the agree. Okay, if we think it's it's we can let the market to establish some budget. If we agree, I open mind. Okay, just pass the option is just pass the policy, no budget. I'm open mind too. Okay, but if we can have some little budget or some result, that's fine too. Yeah.
And the I stands for improvement, Tourism Marketing Improvement District.
Thank you. And just from my standpoint, my opinion is I would probably be more in favor of passing this general policy without a specific budget, and then kind of taking it on a case-by-case basis and see what happens. And, when we do get to the point where there is a sister city or friendship city that's serious, then we can kind of gauge where we are, and then maybe we can always, as a council, adjust our policy at that time. But that's where I am.
I agree with you. You're right.
So, okay, go ahead. Well,
Well, no problem. I mean, if you still have some comments, please continue, but that's okay. Please. Oh, real. Well, but thank you so much for the comments. I think this is really great that to see we have a policy here, and I think we can summarize a little. For example, when we have like sister city or friendship city, there are two ways. One is we welcome those people coming to our city, then we have a ceremony. Or somehow, for example, Councilmember Menchaca traveled to Europe, and somehow you see Barcelona, the council member they would like to make a friends with St. Gabriel. Then we can just, that is an opportunity. This is outreach. And our council member Ding is from Shanghai, and this is a huge city. They may want to make a friends with an old city like us. And so another way is we have so high populated travelers travel from other countries to here. When they see it, when they come to us, they may not just come to us directly. They may visit Los Angeles and somewhere, and they may know some community leaders in our city and say, you know what, I love your city, and I would like to make a friend with your city. And I can just go back and talk to my mayor, and we can just start to initiate the whole process. So that is how the friendship created. So that creates some cost. But to me, if we will be outbound, we travel overseas, I would say we will pay our own fees, everything. Because it is, we're not spending anything from our taxpayers' money. But for those people coming here and help us to generate more tax revenue, we may consider give them some refreshment. But I think for a long time that it's non-equivalent value of the gift. That will be something that we've been making, people will make fun of us. I mean, not us, not the city, but the US cities. For example, when a friendship city, they may have bring a huge crystal because they want to show how precious of the friendship. So maybe that is a gift from Japan. We don't know the value. It's given to the city. And the city, in return, give them a mug with a logo on that. So that will make the city looks really so bad.
That's a great point, Vice Mayor. Let me just clarify. When I said budget, it wasn't for travel. It was for the gifts, because I've seen this time after time after time where, cities are given gifts, not just mugs and little pins and stuff like that. So when I suggested a budget, it was for the gifts, not for travel.
Yeah, okay. For reception, right? So for example, if someone just travel abroad and they may want to just greet the sister city, maybe someday Councilmember Chen will visit Guangdong, China somewhere, then they may give him a big welcome dinner. But for us, we may have them some like in and out. For example, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, I mean, but that is somehow you will say, okay, that is a little bit different. You know, they will say, okay, we are trying to make, it's really ceremonial, but ceremonial that costs something. So, you know, in our city, we don't have to spend that much money, but we should really give something is more made in St. Gabriel. For example, we have a Native American culture here, and we should really have some budget that is making something with our landmark building, with some of our Native Americans symbolic items that we'll be giving as a gift, but that may not cost that much, and also helping our city's economy. And also regarding, just list some of the countries that may not be, we don't consider as like a friendly countries. I would suggest we can put something like this. You know, we have like a hostile countries to the U.S. That was listed on the U.S. Department of State. So, for example, North Korea, Russian, or Iraq. Well, we can list that because we have that country has been identified. That is not a country that even our government will say, you know what, U.S. citizens don't go there, and we will have a very strict regulations for those people coming to our country. So there is no way we can make any friendship city or sister city for that kind of circumstance. So we can list something, but that means we do acknowledge, yes, we have some countries, our country doesn't like them, we won't make friends with them. So that's pretty simple, but it must list it in official websites of U.S. Department of State. So that's official. So for TMID, I agree with Councilmember Ding. That is a good, they would be benefit if we have more tourists coming. And you know what, even not sister or friendship city. Many people from Asia, they are still stay in our hotel and go somewhere else, but they want to stay in the center of St. Gabriel Valley. So this is our strength. TMID can make something happen. For example, if we will have a ceremonial event, sign ceremony, or welcome a receptionist, I think that they can do something about this. But that we should not treat the TMID as the only source of fund for our expense. We should really have our own budget. So I will be grateful to see that we will adopt a sister cities policy, and also we will consider to have the budget. We don't know. We should do it case by case because somehow if
go ahead, but that's kind of
if they actually bring some gift that is like a like a little cheaper. I mean, I don't mean to evaluate that, but I mean, when they bring something, we just try to make equivalent. I mean,
Right.
You give me something, I give you something,
so.
just in return.
So I think, and let me know if I'm incorrect in understanding what you're saying. I think I would tend to agree with what you're saying, and what I would, in my mind, I would like to see the policy be open-ended in the budget regard and not have hard numbers in terms of budget here, but just a general policy as it's written now, approximately, and then on a case-by-case basis, when the time comes where somebody would, another city, sister city would be visiting, then the city council at the time can vote on what they think an appropriate budget is.
Right, because we would need a staff report for that as well.
I would agree with that.
Actually, the sister city and friendship city, that takes a lot of logistic works. We have a lot of people, staffs, times, and their staff needs to communicate with our city.
Right.
For all the details, what documents to be signed, what gift to be exchanged, and what is a portico, who speaks first, and what to, everything will just be well prepared and for one ceremony. And there will be make sure that our friends, they will see how valuable to be a friend of City of St. Gabriel. So that is I think that is a purpose of, for this policy today. And we want to make sure the policy will become a good asset to, for St. Gabriel, that to make the brand really shine.
Right.
So that's
What you're saying is just case by case.
just case by case, correct?
Leave it as is, case by case, and.
Right,
when
at
the-
least in the beginning, because up until now, our city hasn't had a formal policy. So I think this is a good skeleton, backbone of a general policy that I think we can all agree on, you know, that seems reasonable. And then once it comes into practical usage, then.
Yeah, 'cause it may never be
see-
used.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we can see what it really looks like in practice, and then the council at the time can make adjustments or whatever we need. I'd be in favor of that.
Yeah, another suggestion is, I know that our neighborhood city, the Temple City, they have this kind of relationship. And Monterey Park, I think Acadia, they have too.
They do.
Yeah, so maybe I hope the mark to like asking their city how they can handle this kind of the financial budget, you know. So maybe it's but we still after you have the some sample, maybe you can bring it then see everything's still unique for our city of San Gabriel too, right? So they are just like a reference to for us. Maybe it's easy to set up the future if we need a budget. Maybe we never need a budget too, you know. Yeah. So maybe like there's a nonprofit organization, they can help too to fundraising by themselves too, right? So but I still need some prepare at least I don't at least have some reception, right?
Right.
Even the cookie, it's fine. It's still money, right?
But that would be
You'd-
part of the plan that would be submitted to the council at the time, and the council could
Yeah.
work through it, and maybe at that time, we'll have some gift that is equal to the gifts that the
Right.
sister or the Friendship City is providing us with. And we'll make those decisions at that time.
So
But
Yeah.
also, I would like to remind my colleagues that, correct me if I'm wrong, that as an elected official, if we travel abroad and to meet either it's like sister cities or a friendship city, we cannot really accept the gift for a certain amount. That we need, I think, anything, if we are going to adopt the policy today, I think I will hope that our city is able to provide a training or any informations that will be showing what we can and what we cannot do when we travel, so we can just stay out of trouble. Because I understand that we can make good friends there, but we have to be cautious. That is my-
Our attorneys are very good about that.
we trust him.
So any comments from you?
I think the only thing I heard is the council was interested in adopting the policy and continuing on a case-by-case basis. If the council wants to make the policy a little bit future-proof, we can add a clause that says that we will, as it currently stated, will do only small gifts and refreshments when deemed necessary. But we can also add a clause that says, unless otherwise included in the annual budget or approved on a case-by-case basis by the city council. And that would indicate that if you all look at one in the future and want to provide a budget, or perhaps during this year's adoption of the budget, if we set a specific sister city fund or expense, that we can stick to that amount.
Okay. So,
And just like the nonprofit organization, just you can if the initiate a nonprofit organization, if they cannot do the continue to support maybe organizations are gone. So I hope we still can put on another organization can step in to do that, because if that's a long run, it's really good for the cultural exchange and for our benefit for the city.
I was just going to say, and we should all start thinking about gifts, just in general, that are worthy of some of the gifts that some of the other countries may be bringing to us. because we really don't have anything. Now, I mean, now that it's been mentioned, we have the mugs, we have the pins, but that's it. And so maybe something to think about.
We just have pain. Like I know the city manager Mark. We have some people visit to us, but it's our pin is still valuable. They gave it to us. Should be in the city hall display room, right, for the vest. It looks like it's a good art, but we exchange it's our pin to them. But I talked to them. That's a variable too.
Okay, well, I'm glad you persuaded them.
Okay, so any,
Motion?
so would any council like to make a motion?
I
I make a motion.
Okay, motion.
now that motion is for the recommended action plus modified by the minor wording as we just discussed.
Yeah, it's plus the organization. It's
No,
yeah.
no. Yeah, oh,
Oh, it's-
I believe the policy is fluid enough that it would allow organizations to change out, no problems in the future. If you want to make that specific, we can add that.
Okay.
But I do believe it doesn't say that it has to
Okay.
be one organization and
Okay.
stay that way.
So basically, we, a motion that is made by Councilmember Ding and second by Councilmember Chen.
Yes.
Okay, good. So take a vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Next item, please.
New business item A, authorization of an additional evidence and property technician. Police Sergeant Nat Wynn will make the presentation.
Good evening. Still would like to address the mayor, even though he's not here. Mayor Harrington, Vice Mayor Wu, Councilmember Menchaca, City Manager Mark Lazzarato, and Councilmember Ding, and Councilmember Chan. Once again, my name is Nat Wynn. I'm a sergeant with our Community Engagement Bureau here at the San Gabriel Police Department. I'm here to propose the addition of a second evidence and property technician. Currently, we only have one, and the processing and handling of the evidence that we're currently taking in has now included body-worn cameras, which has become tedious, labor-intensive work due to requests from the LA County DA's office, private attorneys, the public, and the media as well. So it's created a bit of a backlog for our solo evidence technician, who is already responsible, and I don't mean to bore you, but I'm just going to give you a quick rundown, who is already responsible for receiving evidence, tagging it, cataloging it, packaging, processing, testifying in court, and processing more evidence even at our LA County blood lab, which is a tedious process as well. I just want to paint a picture and give you a typical request from those entities that I just mentioned in regards to our digital evidence, our body-worn cameras specifically. A body-worn camera digital evidence will take roughly between 4 to possibly the entire day, 4 hours or the entire day, which is a 10-hour workday for the evidence technician to process. And the reason for that is it becomes tedious work because now the evidence tech has to filter the evidence. A 8-hour-long video from a body camera may only contain 3 hours worth of valuable information for the DA's office, and we have to filter that in some way. But the only way we're going to do that is if we watch the entire video. So that becomes tedious in itself. At the very moment, we are taking in an average of 53 requests for our body-worn cameras a month. And if we do the math, 4 hours per request, it will take us approximately 1 month to process all 53 requests. And each request does come with a timeline individually attached to itself, So there's a different deadline for each of the requests. Currently, we are only one of 2 organizations, police organizations, within the San Gabriel Valley that does not have at least a minimum of 2 evidence technicians on duty. The other one being San Marino PD. So we are proposing the concept of an additional evidence tech, which would cost the city a little bit over $100,000, including benefits annually. I understand that's a high number. I understand we're adding another body to the equation. However, that particular position will help increase the quality of police work we conduct. It will help us solve more crimes. It will help us meet deadlines for the public, basically helping the organization move forward as the community progresses. And so I'm here on behalf of our police organization proposing this position.
Thank you, Sergeant Nett. Does any council member have factual questions for Sergeant to clarify the report?
Yeah, I got a quick question, and I'm sure there is a need in our police department for that extra technician. But if you could please describe, it would get a little bit technical, I guess, or so describe from my understanding and the audience's understanding, specifically with things like body-worn cameras, and I assume it just continuously takes a video. Now, can you explain why it takes that long, to watch the whole video? Is it not, and I'm not doubting you, I'm just trying to, because I'm not a technical guy, so I'm trying to understand technically. Is it as easy, or could it be as easy as taking whatever data file that is and uploading it to something like YouTube, or where it tells you right away how long, with an 8-hour shift or whatever, and then if, say, in the 5th hour, that officer got in an altercation with a suspect. It's not as easy as uploading that, going to the 5th hour and seeing where we are, or how does that work?
In all honesty, sir, we do not have that technology at this very moment. I am not aware of that technology, to be real with you. If we were to purchase something like that, it would obviously be something else on the agenda as well. Okay. But no, at this very moment, we do not.
So that's just not the way those kind of camera and recording systems work?
Unfortunately, it does require someone to view the entire footage, which, like I said, it could be an entire shift.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
Anyone else? No? See none? So Sergeant Nett, just a quick question. So far, we have only one evidence and property technician, only one in our PD.
Yes.
So we are adding, we are adding one position. It will be a permanent position.
Yes, sir. It will be a permanent position. We'll make it 2 total.
I see. Okay. So, I think I understand what Councilmember Chen was trying to say, because I thought that was easy when we every night we just charge it the phone and it can be synchronized to the cloud automatically. So we thought that as easy as that way. But I believe that for your you need to keep that as evidence that could be require higher skill, right?
I'm trying to make sure I don't misinterpret your questions. The concept of when a district attorney's office requests video, digital evidence, in order to prepare that evidence, we'll give it Investigation A. Investigation A is now being requested from the DA's office, and that investigation, based on the body-worn camera, let's just say the officer's body-worn camera was running the entire shift, which is a 12-hour shift. So in order to get to the actual point of where we are referring to that the DA wants, we'd have to filter that in some way. Obviously, don't get me wrong, we can always fast forward to a certain time, a certain moment. However, it still requires for us to kind of focus and pinpoint, okay, this is what we're looking at, and that does take some time. It's tedious.
Got it. Okay. Well, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
Oh, we have one.
you, Officer Nguyen. Did we compare what what other agencies are paying for a evidence tech? Because what I've noticed today was the Los Angeles Police Department is hiring 911 operators, and what they're paying them is $20,000 less than what we pay our 911 operators. So I'm assuming with the evidence tech, you know, we're being, you know, competitive, because, you know, this city, you know, as you know, in the last auditor's report, our police department was 36% of our budget, you know, in the last state auditor's report. That's just for the police department. And a city this size in the nation should spend about 13.5% of their budget towards policing. And in California, of course, everything is a little bit more. You're looking at 15% of your budget. So 2.5 times, we're spending 2.5 times more for policing this little city here than a typical city would pay the size of ours. So we need to question why we're spending so much money. If you know, LAPD is only spending $60,000 or $70,000 for an evidence tech, why are we spending $100,000? Right? We need to bring that up, because our budget's getting out of hand. You know, and I think that's something that we need to focus on, is how much are we actually spending, you know, for something like this. $100,000 for an evidence tech seems like a lot of money, you know. So, and I don't know that we have anything to compare it to, because I don't believe there was anything in the staff report that compared, you know, what evidence techs pay in the San Gabriel Valley or whatever. But I think that's something that should be part of this staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience would like to make a comment? So I see none.
May I ask another question?
Oh, sure.
Since the issue came up, and Chief Elizalde is here, and you just came from another agency, can you speak to that a little bit in terms of comparability of police departments and budgets, and do you have experience with?
So with the profession as a whole, it's very competitive to bring on key people that can do the job. And this money that was noted in the staff report is not just simply salary, but also including benefits as well.
Understood.
So it's not that this person is receiving, for example, and generally speaking, $100,000 salary a year plus benefits.
Yes.
It's comprehensive in the whole package. What's also taking time, and why many agencies are going to 2 property and evidence technicians. One, first and foremost, is the body-worn camera issue and discovery request from the LA County District Attorney's Office. As the sergeant stated, there are multiple discovery requests a day and per week, and they start adding up. I had a conversation with the city manager earlier today in explaining, for whatever reasons, and going to the docking of the camera and just being able to upload it, the district attorney went with one vendor to be able to digitally send body-worn camera footage directly to the DA's office. There are agencies in LA County, including San Gabriel Police Department. The vendor we chose for our body-worn camera platform, the DA is not in agreement with sending and allowing that information to flow as it is with other vendors. So we have property and evidence techs actually burning CDs and DVDs to physically send to the DA's office, when other police departments are able to just simply send a link, and they're able to send that information and share the information per the discovery request. So that's part of it as far as the resources being used just on the body-worn camera issue. When I came to San Gabriel, one of the first things I looked at was our property and evidence, and found that it was in desperate need of improvements and trying to clear out property and evidence that we had retained over the years. And because there's a constant flow of new property and evidence, we're never able to catch up. We believe that with the second property and evidence technician coming in, And once they're fully trained, that we will not only be able to keep up with the demands of today, but also being able to clear out evidence and property and return evidence and property on cases that have been adjudicated.
Okay. And I assume that whatever the fancier platform of technology will probably be a discussion item for budgets, for the city council for the budget in the future.
Yes, so.
Looking at that
so-
kind of capability.
Yes, sir. And through the LA County Chiefs of Police organization, there's a handful of us within LA County that are asking the question, why? Why did the LA County District Attorney's Office only choose to identify one platform where that digital evidence could be shared digitally via a link? Like I said, San Gabriel, and there's others within LA County that are left having to use more resources and in terms be old school and burn CDs still and physically have to take them down to the DA's office.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. So it's time for council discussion. Who would like to go first?
Thank you. Sergeant, I had some questions here. Number one is, how long would it take to hire someone with this skill set? Because it just seems like, you know, I'm looking at your salary cost analysis, so I know an analysis has been made. I understand that the 101 is a competitive bid, but to find someone like this, it seems so specialized. How long does it take to find someone like this? I mean, because there's a comment here about we can go internal, but don't you have to have a certain skill set? Or is something that you find an officer who wants to do it and they get trained to do it? I'm just trying to understand this better.
Thank you for the question. For most agencies, this is what would be considered a non-sworn position, so it wouldn't be taking a police officer and transferring them into property and evidence. Doesn't mean that officers, and currently we have detectives assisting our property and evidence tech, but when they step aside from their daily duties and investigations, the backlog continues even more. So with that, most agencies have a hands-on training program because each agency is different in the way they process the evidence. There are classifications and certifications that must be met within certain time parameters for the property and evidence tech to be recognized and invested within the property and evidence tech world.
So then, when you say internal, you didn't mean internally officers, you meant maybe someone from City Hall that might want to make a transition of some sort?
That is possible, yes.
Okay. And so once we decide, if we decide tonight to go forward with it, how long do you think it would take to find somebody?
We would start the process almost immediately because this position requires not only testing, oral interviews, and then once we find or our HR staff is able to give us a list of qualified candidates, they go through a final interview process. But this is where we start to lose people, is when they have to go through a background investigation. So the background investigation is comparable to a dispatcher, just shy of what it is, what's required of a police officer. So that in itself can take 2 or 3 months, depending on the background of the person. That's why we're looking and hoping, if council does approve this item, that we're looking at onboarding this person roughly around July 1st.
Okay, so it does take quite a long time.
Councilwoman, may I piggyback on your train of thought at the moment? I was looking at that too, that I mean, I can sense the urgency in your presentation and that we need someone as soon as possible, yesterday. And so I was just kind of wondering why it does take that long. You set the target date as July 1st. It's all the background checks and all the procedural that's going to take that long?
The procedures through our HR director and how the testing would be set up. So initially with these types of positions, there would be a written test followed by an initial oral interview, followed by a command staff or a chief interview just to get to somebody entering into a background. It's the background that can take 2 to 3 months.
Oh,
Even if we
okay.
were to expedite it, yes.
So that's just the way things move. Right.
Yes, and again, because we're audited and directed by post,
Right.
as badly as we need somebody to start tomorrow, we cannot by step certain protocols that would come up in an audit.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman?
Sure. So then, let me ask you a question too. So what if, well, there's two questions. The first one is, if our DA doesn't continue in November, let's just say he doesn't get elected, and we have a DA who wants to work more collaboratively, how would that change our department? It seems like if we have that link would be helpful, but we still have a gap here because there's so much work that needs to be done with or without the link. Is that correct?
It would be more work, in my opinion, based on the fact that if the election results brought in a new district attorney, and that new district attorney did away with the special directives that the current DA put in place, we would be prosecuting much more crime. With that, we would have much more evidence, and with that, much more discoveries.
Okay, that's another way of looking at it. Okay, we'll actually be prosecuting people instead of letting them go. And then what about AI? How would AI come into play somehow here? Is there a way of using them to help, or this is so much more labor intensive that you can't substitute? So, because I'm the body camera, I understand, because you actually have to view it, but some of the other work, is AI coming into play here in any way, or are we still, it's got to be done by humans?
AI is starting to enter into the world of law enforcement, and in some agencies, it already has. In Dallas, Texas, they're using AI to help generate police reports and communicate with different community members. In this case, if not daily, weekly, I get marketing information from everyone claiming to be or have a program that could assist in this matter. These, I can assure you, are high dollar ticket items that, in my opinion, it's still new to the profession, and we may find ourselves, if we went down that road early on in the game, paying for something that could probably hamper our efforts. So I would want to see it played out a little more, and these are platforms that we discuss amongst the chiefs, and when I go to conferences and there's different vendors there, as a group, we vet these out.
Okay, thank you. And if we would have two, and we would be like everyone else, except for San Marino, we would have two of these technicians. If work ever was less, can these technicians do other types of work also? I mean, right now there's not that luxury, but I'm just kind of thinking ahead. For some reason, the crime does go down, less evidence to do, less need to collect evidence. These technicians, since they're non-sworn, would they be able to be used in other parts of the department to do other valuable work, or is it this is all they do?
No, they can, and my vision is to continue to grow the organization. So big picture down the road, if and when we're able to catch up with all our evidence needs, and on any given day, an evidence technician may be available, and we do have a crime scene, I would want the evidence technicians not only to be able to collect after the fact, but also go out and help patrol and or detectives at that time process and collect, and not just be on the receiving end of it.
Okay, great. I like to hear that. And then lastly, just, you know, I have to tell you, when I see you, I think of Alhambra, and of course, Barbara Messina's right there. That's my hometown, so I'm just so grateful that you're here. I know, Barbara. No time for public comment from you. But I just, I just want to just say I'm just so happy that you're here, that you're from my hometown of Alhambra, and I really appreciate you bringing these type of proposals to the council so we can even be better as an organization on our law enforcement side. I know that when we look at council, when we look at salaries and we look at positions, we always do compare ourselves to other cities. And we finally are at a level where we're much more competitive. And I've looked at other cities, and we are no different with regards to how much we pay for law enforcement. So I'm very proud of where we are now. And just please continue to bring forward, after, of course, you talk to Mark, these type of proposals, because I want to be able to provide our officers in your department with the tools necessary to keep this community safe. So I appreciate that, and keep coming, with possibilities, with ways that will just improve our department, because I think you have our full support. So at least you have my support, but I think I can speak for my colleagues. You have our support. So thank you for bringing this forward. And I would, I'll wait to hear if my colleagues have anything more to say, but I'm very, I will be supporting this proposal. So thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. Alhambra was my home. This is now my home, so I'm looking to do
It's
everything
been my
I
home for
can
30 years now,
to make the
too,
home
but
better.
it's hard to forget where you come from, so.
I understand, but my focus is here now. Thank you.
Mine, too.
Well, thank you. So who's next? Councilmember Dean?
It's interesting, just asking, okay. The DA office, it's our local police department have to do this kind of job for them, or just give to the whole shift, or body warm the camera, give it to them, they can do it?
I wish it was that easy, but no.
Yeah, that's think about it too.
So we get the request, again, they come in daily through our investigation section. Depending on what the requests are, for example, there could be 25 check boxes as to what a DA would want. In my experience, while I was still working in investigations, those DAs will just mark everything in that, every box within that, on that page, sometimes not even knowing if it's needed. But that is something, once we receive it, that we have to process, and we're not in the position to say, you don't need this, you don't need that. If it's marked on the page, we have to abide by that.
So that's, I think a county, DA, county should be, give it to a city the same budget to do that, right?
Good luck.
County job, right?
Yeah, that's theory. Sure.
I agree with you, sir, but I'm not sure that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know, but looks like. And another question, it's he only one kind of format give it on a CD that give it to them. So if we have just think of some on kind of way, so if we change the software, can really match they want it, like Councilmember the Manchenga say, maybe AI something. Is it possible, or how much it costs this kind of software?
We can change. We are currently in mid-contract with our vendor and looking to go to what the vendor that most police departments, not only in California, but probably the United States use. Just off the top of my head, you're probably looking at around a $300,000 platform, and then you have to add on yearly subscription to that.
$300,000.
Roughly.
Just started. Annual fee. So is it
So that's why,
Compare-
again, sir,
okay, okay.
the chiefs that don't have access, direct access to the district attorney through the portal, that's why we're still in discussion and trying to have the DA recognize that cities like San Gabriel, police departments like San Gabriel and others are finding, ourselves behind the 8 ball and not being able to use our resources effectively.
And another question, but it estimate like a little bit more than 100,000. That's like start up the salary or for the future. I want to think about it for the future, the benefit and the salary increase. So have some range on that.
I believe the dollar amount shown in the staff report is at the highest level. I believe it's step E. That
So highest level doesn't mean just go ahead and if their entry is pay like 71,000, right? Probably depends on the HR to interview how much for the entry level. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Depending if we were to be able to recruit and hire somebody that is a lateral from another agency and they're in between steps, I would work with our HR director to see what step is appropriate. But if not, and we had to bring somebody that was fresh with no experience, more than likely they would start at step A and then throughout their tenure work up each step.
So we have any some idea for the rest of the city if they hire the same position, how much the average the salary cost? Do we have any study on that?
I don't have that information with me tonight, sir, but I can get you comparisons if that is something that you're requesting.
And if you don't mind me jumping in, Vice Mayor and Council Member, this is an existing, already an existing position within our city, so we're not creating a new salary range, we're not creating a new position. We're adding one more person that already has that existing classification. One of the things that we just sent out was a request for proposals for a salary study, and that will look at every position within the city, including these, and at that point, we'll be able to tell where we fit in the market range as compared to other cities. I think we'll look at 8 to 10 other cities, so we'll find out where we fit. But we have not shown council what that salary looks like with the other cities because we're not adding a position and we're not trying to create a market position. We're just trying to add one more to what we currently have.
Thank you, the market explanation. So, yeah, I know it's, you find the evidence, I know it's spent a lot of time. I know I'm a computer guy, if you really want to catch, especially you have AI for the future, maybe we can do it. But otherwise, you're human to do it. It's really, actually, sometimes it looks like a waste time, but it's really want to spend time to focus some evidence they request. So, yeah, if they kind of really heavy duty, the task on it. So, yeah, it's this is for the next year budget, right? Yeah. So, Mark, did you have any like a good budget future for us? Estimate.
We are starting that process now. We have nothing to believe that we're going to be in a bad financial position next year, and we wouldn't be bringing this forward if we were concerned that we would have to turn around and lay somebody off the next year that we hire. So I can't promise you what the budget will look like, but we feel pretty confident that we've been conservative. And I think that's our very next item. You're going to hear where we ended the last year, and it's all good news. So we wouldn't be bringing this to you if we felt we were going to be in a position we might not be able to afford it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your answer. Okay, just listen to the rest of the council, the comments. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, at this moment, the rest means me. So, well, but thank you very much, Chief Elizade, and thank you, Sergeant Nat, for bringing the proposal to us. So, would any council make motions on this?
I'll move to approve the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion is being made by Councilmember Menchaca and second by Councilmember Chen. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Next item, please. Thank you.
Presentation and
Thank you.
acceptance of the annual comprehensive financial report and other audit reports for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2023. Assistant Finance Director Linda Tang will make the presentation.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Linda Tang, Assistant Finance Director for the City of San Gabriel. Tonight, it is my pleasure to present to you the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2023. The city fiscal sustainability policy, which was adopted in May of 2019, requires that the annual comprehensive financial reports, or ACFR, be formally submitted to the City Council on an annual basis. And additionally, the city auditors were required to be present. Representing the city's audit firm of Moss, Levy, and Hartzenheim is our audit manager, Terry Robertson. He will be available for questions after the presentation. The tonight presentation will review the result of the audits, as well as conduct an analysis of the financial result for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. Our audit firm of Moss, Levy, and Hartzenheim was hired through a competitive process in April of 2020. They have completed the audit for the last 4 fiscal year, including June 30, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The auditors have provided 2 reports. The independent auditor's report, which provide an opinion on the fair presentations of the city annual comprehensive financial report, as well as the scope of the audit. And second, on the agreed upon procedure report over the city's calculations of the annual appropriation limit, or the GAN limits. At a later time, the auditor will complete other letters and report, including the federal single audit. We are required to have the audit this year because we have federal spending of over $750,000. As mentioned earlier, the independent auditor's report defined the scope of the audit and, most importantly, provide the opinion on the fair presentation of the financial statement. I am happy to report that the auditor issued a clean or an unmodified opinion on the fair presentation of our financial statements. Then, in regard to the report on the city's calculation of the appropriation limits, the auditor's verification of the city calculation of the limit report, no exception. So that's good news. Moving on to the slide, which summarizes the revenue and expenditure and net change in the fund balance for the general funds, which is the city's main operating fund. For fiscal year ending June 30, 2023, the general fund had revenue and transfer in of $53,607,000. Expenditures and transfer out of $53,407,000, which resulted in a positive net change in fund balance of $200,000. This is the 5th year in a row that the general fund has had a positive net change in fund balance. With the positive net change in fund balance, the general fund ending balance increased to $15,764,000. This slide presents the fund balance of the general fund by types and comparison between fiscal year 21-22 and 22-23. Starting at the bottom, the overall general fund balance increased by $200,000, as I mentioned, at June 30, 2023, leaving $15.76 million as our ending balance. The restricted fund balance, which has been eliminated as the Public Works loan was paid off during the fiscal year, and that was used as a restricted for collateral on the loans, and we have paid that off in March of 2023. Then per city council direction, 2.4 million in fund balance is committed to fund the city's post-employment, other post-employment benefits or retired health liability and replace capital equipment. Finally, the fund balance assigned to reserve increased by 3.7 million, from 9.7 million to 13.35 million at June 30, 2023. During the fiscal year, the City Council refined our reserve policy, increasing the goal of reserve from 17% to 25%. So I just want to make a note that the assigned reserve in the general fund meets the 25% reserve level established by the City Council. That is why we have 2.4 million committed to help fund our other post-employment benefit as well as capital replacement fund. This slide here shows a line chart of the general fund balance from fiscal year 2018 to 2022-23. You can see from the line chart that it's a consistent improvement in general fund balance, which resulted in meeting the reserve goal in fiscal year 2021, and again, meeting the increased reserve goal in 2022-23 of 25%. Going on to the next slide. This slide provides an analysis of the general fund revenue by major category and compare the current year amount versus the prior year. The overall revenue decreased by 3.6 million from the prior year. The primary reason for the decrease in revenue was due to the one-time American Rescue Plan Act revenue that was recognized in the prior year. As you can see, an intergovernmental revenue which decreased by 6.7 million. On the positive side, the tax revenue increased by 3.2 million. All major tax category increased in fiscal year 22-23, led by the transit occupancy tax as travels return, and the utility users tax, each increased by about 20% in fiscal year 22-23. Charges for service decreased by nearly 900,000, primarily due to us removing a single revenue line item for a pass-through special plan check fees from the general fund, which developer pays and it's dollar for dollar what they pays in, and we pay out to contractors. We have removed that line. Moving on, there is investment income category that increased by 339,000. We have taken advantage of the increased interest rate in a year to earn some more interest revenue for the city. Other than the interest earnings that we have in that investment income categories, we also had to basically recognize some gas fees, 87 entries that increased that amount. So in interest return, we have about 250,000 earned, up from 18,000 in the year prior. This slide provides the analysis of the general fund expenditure by departments and compares the 22-23 fiscal year amount versus the prior year of 21-22. Overall, the general fund expenditures were higher by 6.56 million. The primary driver of the increase across all departments were mainly for personnel costs due to labor agreements. Second, coming down to the debt service, you can see the loan payoff for public works loan in the debt service category. And I would like to bring your attention also to capital outlay that increased by 615,000. That is for the purchase of our fire communication radios, as well as Mission Playhouse parking lot improvement project, and implementations of a new pronouncement from the Governmental Accounting Standard Board to recognize a number of subscription-based information technology arrangement that we have for the city. And lastly, that also includes our small business grant that we provided in fiscal year 2022-23. And there were 32 grants that we issued, provided to small business in the fiscal year. Transfer out, you can see we have an increase of 110,000. The transfer out represents the 350,000 to the Mission Playhouse and 110,000 to other grant fund for reimbursements of a grant. Moving on to the slide, which provides the city's pension and other post-employment benefits liabilities. The pension liability increased by 32.8 million due to the pension fund's investment loss of 6.1%, as well as a change to the discount rate used to calculate the pension funding. With the decrease in the funding, the city's pension plans, the funding level dropped from 75.5% to 65.6% funding level. The increase in the liability will be amortized over 20 years. Going to the city's other post-employment benefit liability, it decreased by nearly $4 million due to an increase in discount rate used to calculate the funding. And currently, the other post-employment benefit has been negotiated away for future new hires to the city, which will have a long-term effect on the fundings of the city other post-employment benefit plan. As of the latest actuarial, the city had 125 retiree employees receiving the benefit and 178 active employees potentially being eligible for the benefit. So here's a chart that shows the other post-employment benefit and pension liability fluctuations from fiscal year 2018-19 to fiscal year 22-23. I want to certainly probably pull your attention to the pension liability for the moment. In fiscal year 21-22, there was an investment return of 21.3%. Therefore, you can see a dramatic decrease to the liability. Then in fiscal year 22-23, there were an investment loss of 6.1%, plus there were a discount rate change from 7.15% to 6.8%. This chart shows how volatile these liabilities are, because the assumption makes the difference, the rates makes the difference, actual return makes the difference. So this graph here is just trying to provide you and give you a picture that, it fluctuates from year to year, depending on the assumption the actuary really kind of used for the report. It's really hard to grasp which direction it may go. 1 year it can be up, 1 year it can be down. So, but here's a 5-year history. The good thing is we did put some, certainly a committed reserve now, as I mentioned earlier, for other post-employment benefit. The slide analyzed the other 3 major funds of the city, as well as the roll-up balance of our other 18 non-major funds. First off, the retirement tax fund, which account for the taxes restricted to pay retirement-related expenditures, increased by $298,000, leaving a fund balance of $999,000 at June 30. The development impact fee funds, which account for fees on development restricted to pay for city facility, increased by $2.2 million, and ending in $13.75 million. The sewer assessments fund, which account for fees restricted for the repair and replacement of the city sewer system, decreased by approximately $2.1 million, leaving a fund balance of $5.77 million at June 30. The other 18 special revenue funds account for specific activities and to demonstrate adherence to specific restriction of the funds, are decreased by $265,000 and a roll-up balance of $7.9 million at June 30. So these funds include Mission Playhouse Fund. It includes AQMD, Prop A, Prop C, Measure R. So there are 18 special revenue funds that we have here in the city. So for the 33rd year in a row, the city received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. For June 30, 2023, annual comprehensive financial report, we have submitted it to the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, for consideration of the 34th Award of Excellence. Lastly, I want to acknowledge the acknowledgement for the preparations of the June 30, 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report goes out to the Finance Department staff and the whole City of San Gabriel team. And with that, myself, Finance Director Will Kaholakula, and our Audit Manager Terry Robertson are available here to answer any questions or comment you may have.
Well, thank you very much, Linda. Does any council member have any question? No? So, okay. Well, City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
I have no speaker cards.
No speaker cards. Any audience would like to speak? I see none, so I close the public comments. So it's now for council's discussion. Who would like to go first? Please.
I just had a quick question to our auditor. The communication letter usually has some of the more, I guess, how could I say, not complicated, but it just shares some red flags, let's say. I didn't see the communication letter here, so I'm assuming it's forthcoming. Was there anything that we should be aware of as council?
Well, the letter itself is usually done at the completion of the audit. Since you have the federal audit, we won't actually complete that until, well, it's due in March, but we hope to complete it before that. But there's no items that need to be brought to your attention at this time.
Okay, great. And then just want to highlight, in case for the members of the audience, or really the public, that we are at, we've met our 25% contingency reserve. And I guess if you add the monies that we put aside for OPEB, we actually are at 29%. So we are doing quite well.
Somewhere around 30%, as I recall, yeah.
Yeah, but, well, okay.
It's been a month since I looked at the numbers.
Okay, you're forgiven for not memorizing it. But I just think, I just want to applaud Will and Linda and, for the great work that you've done. We are in a very healthy position. And I am just so grateful that we finally paid off that PW loan. It was something that was hovering over us, and I'm just glad it's gone. so thank you so much. And that's all.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Changa. Who's next? Chen?
Yeah, no, nothing big. I echo my colleagues' comments, and I'm very happy to see that we keep improving and we're in a better financial place. So thank you to our accounting staff, our finance staff, and to our auditors. And so I read through the report. It's pretty self-explanatory, and thank you.
Thank you. Certainly, I want to say thank you to the whole City of San Gabriel team. I think all departments certainly do their part in trying to stay within budget, which just makes everything better, be frugal, be the way they are. So I don't want to belittle the other effort, not just finance, it's the whole City of San Gabriel.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Dean?
I remember for the 2023 the budget, that time we want to pay off the public work construction loan. And at that time, I remember the mark told us probably will be deficit for the 2020 to 2023. But right now, actual report looks like we still increase 200,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's good news for the public to know that. Okay, so we solved this tough situation for the loan, right? And also still have the surplus. Okay, and yeah, congratulations, the financial department and the market leadership too, right? Okay, yeah. 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 So that's why I asking the market before for the future, the next year, the budget is hopefully it's more surplus to help even we have if we really need last time, session talking about the more position, so it's really help, so yeah, and like Councilmember mentioned, it's we set up a goal is 25, but actually it's 29, right? And then we have the reserve fund for future pension and replacement. But pension liability, we saw that last year, it's CalPERS do not good job, okay? Lose money, it costs us too. So I'm glad we already have some reserve fund to plan. Maybe it's not enough, but we can start up and for the future, if just in case same thing happen, to really help our city for the future, the pension liability. And yeah, let me see it's interesting, it's for the license and the permit. And so looks like reduce. That's meaning we have less business to continue business with our city, or?
That is correct. The decrease the decrease in 406,000, a majority of it due to building, plumbing, electrical permit that we received during fiscal year 22-23. Again, it is hard to predict. These are drive-by. There were people who walk in the door to pull permit, do improvement to home, and do improvement to businesses. So for fiscal year 22-23, it is less than prior year.
That's also usual?
It can fluctuate. It's definitely can
Fluctuate,
fluctuate.
okay.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. We certainly try to be conservative when we do our estimate, but the actual comes in, they were lower than prior year.
Okay.
So they do fluctuate. I mean,
Okay.
they can
But
go up.
the state, I feel like, but you say like maybe it's a resident or just one time the permit. But if I talk about a consistent the business license, they are increased or decrease.
Our business license, our business license is a tax, so we cannot increase a tax without going to the
But
voters.
I mean the revenue, it's
Yeah, the revenue is fairly consistent because we can't increase the
yeah,
tax.
yeah.
So other than if there are penalties or fees that they have to pay, if they have additional employees, those is where the differences are, but base tax, they're pretty much the same. So they're fairly level at this point for business license, which is included in the same category of licenses and permits. So not too much different in that category.
Okay, so, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I would add to what Linda said. We do a great job, I believe, of forecasting the business license revenue as well as the normal permits that homeowners come in and want to do an addition to their house or an ADU. We have a very solid track record of what's happened in the past to forecast the future. What we have more difficulty predicting is the big projects, because when a project like the Pacific Plaza comes in, that could be several $100,000 in fees. So we don't budget our expenses based on those sort of one-time costs. So what you're seeing is a fluctuation in year to year from those big projects, and that's revenue. But our expenditures and what our budget was would tell a different story than that.
Okay, so budget's usually just based on the routine, the business license.
That's right. We sit down with our building official and our community development staff and all of our departments to talk about one-time things. But those fluctuations, and we will get them either at the end of the year or right before we're going to increase our fees. We'll have developers come in and pay several $100,000 worth of their permits in order to try to save 5 or 7% increase, and we can't judge that from year to year.
All right, because you already answered the question. It's for the stable, the business license is still stable, not like
That's correct.
increase or decrease. Okay, all right. Thank you. My question.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Dean, and well, thank you again, Linda, for making such a presentation. Maybe you don't know, but every word that you say, I can see the confidence from your smile. So that shows how solid this report shows, demonstrate your great work, and thank you so much for the team. And we finally been removed the tag of like the financially mismanagement tag has been removed officially. I mean, with a certified by federal, right? That we have a certificate that we.
Oh, yes, the reporting
Yes.
excellence, yes.
So please.
They are reviewed by a group, a totally different group from, from other agency that joined the GFOA. So to get that award, certainly the presentation, everything included in there are carefully reviewed and looked at.
Well, hopefully that we can just put that on our homepage, showing that everyone that, okay, this is what it is. So, but I know that it's just recommended that City Council receive the file, the annual audit report, but there's no motion required. So we just acknowledge that we received, right? Okay, but thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, next item, please. Well, one moment. Let's take a 5 minutes health break. So let's come back at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Okay, call the meeting back to order. So, next item.
Adoption of urgency ordinance number 701 pursuant to California Government Code Section 65858, prohibiting the establishment of medicinal cannabis delivery businesses for 45 days and an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act. Community Development Director Cervantes will make the presentation.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. This item pertains to an urgency ordinance related to the prohibition on the establishment of medicinal cannabis delivery businesses within a 45-day period, also known as the moratorium in this case. Senate Bill 1186, known as the Medicinal Cannabis Patients' Rights of Access Act, bars cities from prohibiting the retail delivery of medicinal cannabis to patients or caregivers within the city of San Gabriel, or within the city in general. The 45-day moratorium temporarily prohibits the use and allows the city to develop or contemplate the adoption of new development standards such as locational or operational standards, i.e. looking at zoning limitations or locations pertaining to zoning standards. For council's reference, the current code does prohibit the use of medical dispensaries or medical marijuana dispensaries and does not permit for any of these types of establishments anywhere in the city or anywhere in our zoning. Without the enactment of the 45-day moratorium, which prohibits the establishment of medical cannabis delivery businesses, it could be very possible for such a business to locate near sensitive areas, such as within schools or near residential areas. Without operational standards, issues such as security, access, signage, storage, and disposal issues may be left unaddressed. The adoption of locational or operational standards within the city can ensure that such uses are safe and secure while avoiding impacts of public health and safety. Staff does anticipate bringing forward an ordinance to address this use sometime within the first quarter of 2024. If the moratorium needs to be extended, staff will present such an ordinance at a future public hearing, but not before the initial 45-day period expires. So with that said, staff recommends the City Council adopt the proposed ordinance by at least a four-fifths vote of the City Council. So as tonight with 4 council members, we do need a unanimous vote in order for this ordinance to become adopted. And I open for questions.
May I add one thing, Vice Mayor? And although if you said this in your presentation, I apologize. But for those council members who haven't gone through this process before, you're adopting an urgency ordinance tonight, and that's different from the ordinances you've adopted in the past, because instead of taking effect after a second reading and after another 30 days, this basically will take effect as soon as you make that vote. So if somebody were to come into the counter tomorrow morning and try to apply for a permit, they would not meet those zoning regulations. So that's why we use the term urgency, and it's effective immediately, and you won't see another second reading until we bring back at some point in the future the regulations and we have a first and second reading.
So, thank you. So, Aldo, do you still have something, or you finished?
I'm concluded, yes.
Conclude,
Open
okay.
for questions.
Awesome. So, does any council member has questions to Aldo?
I just wanted to clarify a little bit, just a question for Aldo and/or Mark, that from my understanding that because this is an urgency ordinance, that's why the threshold has to be 4/5 vote as opposed to the usual 3 out of 5 majority?
Correct. Any urgency ordinance must be adopted by a supermajority vote. In instances where there's only 4 of you, that means it has to be unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? So, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
No speaker cards. Any audience would like to say, address the issue to council? I see none, so I close the public comments. So now it's time for council discussion. Who would like to go first?
Okay, well, I don't have much to say, I guess. Just to clarify, I guess, my understanding, that the reason why we're having this urgency ordinance is just to legally protect our city because, and give us some time to develop the rules and regulations for the allowance of marijuana stores and.
State law has changed, and our current existing prohibitions are inconsistent with the state law as of January 1st. So state law also provides for the city's ability to adopt an urgency ordinance in order to prevent from uses that are not controlled locating without permits within the city. So by adopting this ordinance, you give the city the ability, the city staff the ability to update our own zoning laws, to bring before the Planning Commission, which I think is coming actually next week. Planning Commission will be contemplating a set of standards for this kind of use. Basically it gives us time to adopt laws that will allow setting standards and control over these uses and placement.
So to clarify for myself and possibly the audience, what we're doing tonight is not making the regulations and rules. We're just passing this to give us legal cover for 45 days.
We're
to
passing
give us time
prohibition,
to do this.
a short-term prohibition, which is allowed under state law.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Anyone else?
Yes, so I just want to remind everyone that, you know, the first thing that came to mind was massage parlors. We used to have 60 massage parlors in this small little city of San Gabriel. We had the highest per capita. I was in Sacramento when this was brought up. We were one of 3 cities. And we had massage parlors literally next to each other. We had them near schools, residential. It was not a good situation. Finally got it under control, and I think we're down to what, 15, something like that. So I urge all of us, we need to be ahead of it this time, not, you know, so delayed like we were last time. You know, we have an ordinance that doesn't allow this type of sale, but now because of the new state regulation, we're talking brick and mortar. That means that we will have locations. And so we need to have controls. We still have controls even though the state is forcing us to have brick and mortar, but we can have certain regulations like distances from schools and things like that. So this is really, really important. And, you know, I will definitely be voting for it, but, you know, I'm just happy that the staff have the wherewithal to, you know, get up front on this and not let it go like we did with the massage parlors. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilman Berman-Chaka. How about Councilmember Dean?
Okay. So, Councilmember Berman-Chaka mentioned we already have some ordinance regarding the cannabis.
No, well,
have
we have an ordinance not allowing it, locations. They can only have deliveries, obviously. We can't prevent deliveries to people's, you know, to people. But we have an ordinance that prevents us from having any kind of location, store, brick and mortar.
Physical brick and mortar.
Currently already have.
Right.
Yeah.
But the state law is now telling us we have to.
Yeah.
So now we have to kind of take a break so we can make some rules so that, you know, people just don't do it wherever they want in our city.
See, okay, I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah,
We already have the ordinance, but
what has happened is that, generally speaking, when marijuana laws were passed at the ballot, when the people voted in that it would be legal to use marijuana in California, there was a recognition that the cities, through their local police powers, have the ability to either control it. In other words, you can have 2 locations, or you can have on locations only industrial zone, or 5,000 feet away from schools, et cetera. Or they could ban them. Then the city could simply say, we don't want any marijuana retail locations in the city. What has happened with the passage of this law is that medical marijuana, which is, I guess, being considered medicine by legislature, overrides that prohibition. In other words, now the cities can't simply just ban it. We cannot say, you cannot deliver medicine into our city, is the extreme viewpoint of that. But we still can set standards and control it, and have the ability to protect sensitive uses like schools, like churches, like some of the residentials. So in order to be able to do that, we need to say, for the next 45 days, and by the way, that may get extended, and we'll come to you with that if necessary, but for the next 45 days, irrespective of the state law, you cannot locate a delivery or deliver medical marijuana into the city. So it's a prohibition. In the meantime, the ordinances that we have in place will be amended and changed to account for the new state law. So most likely within a month, the council will have before you an ordinance which will set standards,
More detailed rules.
actually location and zoning where these kind of uses can be permitted. And once that ordinance is adopted, the moratorium, which is the prohibition, will go away. And the state law allows the cities to do that. They recognize that sometimes there needs to be a timeout so the city can catch up.
So based on 45 days, that's meaning within 45 days, so we have the new ordinance.
We will have the ordinance to you as soon as it is reasonably feasible. It has to go through the process. I think staff is ambitiously hoping it'll be 45 days, but it might be a week or two longer than that.
Yeah, the 45 days is tough for any ordinance to be adopted, and so, but we do have the ability to extend the ordinance for another 10 months and 15 days, giving it a total of a 1 year period. I don't anticipate needing that long of a time. My guess is about a month or a month and a half from now, we should have something in front of council for adoption.
So, like you bring in a question, it's so after we adopt this one, so the wording says that 45 days, but we still can extend it, like almost, it's a 1 year or 10 months?
It would be a combined 1 year, but this 45 days is the initial period.
Okay.
The council can extend that via ordinance, via public hearing for another 10 months and 15 days.
Okay. Start from today's.
It will start, the 10-month period will start after the full.
45 days.
45 days has expired, right.
So actually, almost 11
Almost a year, yeah.
months. Okay. Yeah, almost a year. For the, because this is the new law, it's effective January 1st, 2024. So you don't have any application right now, right? Okay.
No, not at all.
If just in case for this period, they submit application, so we have to follow the state law.
If we receive an application for this type of use, we have the ability through this moratorium, if adopted tonight, to restrict or turn away the application because it's not allowed by the code.
If we pass the today's.
If this is adopted, yes.
If we don't pass it, just question, don't pass it, so if they apply the business license, so our city have to accept that application?
Yeah.
That's correct.
And but we don't have any ordinance where they can go, right? We lose our control.
Right.
Okay. No
Correct.
control.
Right.
Okay. So that's why it's very important, urgent the ordinance. So, okay. So because I still don't know what's the definition for the medical marijuana.
I'm sorry?
What's the definition for the medical marijuana?
Soft and
I
mushy.
think it's just used for medical purposes instead of recreational. I think that's the That's the difference that is being drawn, at least by state law.
Yeah, but how many amount, how many, that's really,
Yeah, it's hard.
it's hard to.
That's why
just
we have to
say-
pass this
say
tonight, so
something.
we protect our own city and we protect our own local control. That's why, because,
So, yeah, okay. Sounds like it's really important for us.
Yeah.
We have the local resident, like hospital, school, right? Even a lot of, like we have a lot of the supermarket too. We don't want us this kind of thing, this kind of public too. So the ordinance, so we can create which one location they can put on, right?
That's the intent, is to develop the locational standards to identify where these businesses can go, where they don't create a conflict with another use.
So we can limit it, just talking about future, we can limit it, it's only one location?
yeah.
Or I have
Well,
several locations?
The regulations have to be viewed as not a ban. In other words, you can't pass regulations that would say you can only have one in the entire city and has to be, in some location that is almost impossible to accomplish. So you have to give them an opportunity to locate and control.
Reasonable, yeah. That's
All right, okay. All right, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Ding, and thank you, Aldo, for the presentation. So let's make a long story short. SB 1189, that is something that we have to deal with, because it shows that the retail delivery of medical marijuana. So this is nothing to do with medical. This is about a transportation. This is about a facility. They can just put the marijuana there for medical use, but they can distribute. And not only our city, but maybe some other places, they may have a warehouse or any facility. So today that we will be adopting the ordinance that we will have our own local regulation, rules and regulations. So anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second?
So a motion is being made by Councilmember Menchaca and second by Councilmember Ding. Please vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. So next item, please.
Mr. Mayor, the next item is public comment. We do have one speaker card. She did speak under the first general comment period, so it would be up to you whether to allow the next comment. Barbara Messina.
I stayed because I'm always intrigued to sit through other cities' council meetings, and I was very impressed, I have to tell you. I do have a vested interest in San Gabriel because 2 of my daughters live in North San Gabriel, so to me it's important to know you guys are on the right track. But the reason I stayed is I don't think you realize that Seroptimus acts as ambassadors for the city of San Gabriel because we are Alhambra, San Gabriel, San Marino. We are an international organization, so we go all the way up to Ventura for different meetings and constantly being asked, well, tell us something about San Gabriel. And you have an outstanding opportunity to talk about the mission, the San Gabriel mission. People always want to know about the mission, and we're San Gabriel. And so I just wanted to let you know that we are ambassadors for San Gabriel, and we do promote you because you've been part of our organization. So also, your sister city issue. See, I already forgot what I was going to tell you about Sister City. In Alhambra, we started out with 3 sister cities. Granada, Spain was the first, and then Sichuan, Taiwan, and then we had one that was Gary Yamauchi's hometown in Japan. I went to that, and it was very rewarding, but like comments were made, you know, if people don't keep it alive, it falls by the wayside. And I think we need to resurrect our Granada, Spain one, because that has always been our hallmark of identification. So anyway, I'm happy to hear that you're looking into that. And there was something else, and see, it's already gone out of my head. So anyway, I wanted to commend you on an outstanding meeting and a job well done, and thank you. Please read my brochures. Okay, thank you. I stayed up putting all of those together for you, so you better read them. Thank you. Good night. I'm going to bed now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we go to bed, we'll read it.
Okay, so next, please. City manager report. Okay. Then council comments and the conference meeting report. Who would like to go first?
I'll start.
Yes.
So this past Sunday, the San Gabriel Mission held its first ever Oaxacan procession. So it started, Mass was at 1 o'clock in Spanish, and then they proceeded to go outside, and there was just a whole festival and parade with all the traditional garb and the traditional paper mache monos, we call them, which is like piñatas, but they look like real people, I guess. And I had the good fortune of going to Oaxaca with my family earlier last year, and so it was just great to be able to connect it. And so they went from the San Gabriel Mission down the little alleyway, down to Broadway, and then down to Smith Park. And it was kind of humorous to see the drivers, their expression, because they had no idea what was going on. But it was very festive, well-attended, and they're going to do it again next year. So anyway, in case somebody was driving during that time, that's what was going on. And then second, there is a Netflix series called The Brother's Son. I will warn everybody, it's quite violent. I watched it because it's all 626. It was very exciting, and it had, just the great restaurants, great locations, all 626 related. It's an all API cast, and it's got, oh my God, pardon, Michelle Yeoh. And Michelle Yeoh, who, of course, they call her the queen, the API queen. But I wanted to highlight the San Gabriel, points. They had Golden Soup restaurant. They had Newport Seafood. They had our San Gabriel Police badge. Somebody was being arrested, and they did it in such a way that you really had to pay attention, and I did. And they just kind of flashed the San Gabriel badge and of the officers who were doing the arrest. And so, again, I'm not sure if they asked us permission, but San Gabriel badge was there. But what was even more, I guess, kind of humorous, because I even got a call about this, they had a fictitious university, and the name of the university was Cal State University San Gabriel.
That's hilarious. Okay.
And there's actually it was I have a picture of it, a whole plate. It was actually Woodbury University, I came to find. But I actually had somebody ask me, where's that university? And I go, I wish we had a Cal State University. So if anybody asks you, that's why. It is very, very popular right now. Great actors. You can just see these actors. I mean, this is such a great moment for them, because now they're recognized anywhere they go, and variety of interviews that they're in. And one of the lead, one of the brothers, he actually was raised, I think it was Temple City, because he talked about walking every single day on Rosemead Boulevard, and he passed one of the apartment buildings, which they say is in San Gabriel. It's really the unincorporated area of San Gabriel, but it's between Broadway and the bridge. It's on Rosemead. I recognize the apartment building right away. It's across the street from my vet. But it's just, you know, if you can kind of push aside the violence, it's just a story about family. That's really what it's all about. But the 66 finally being highlighted and recognized. So it's a great series. It's gotten a lot of notoriety, but just wanted to put that out there to everyone. There is no Cal State San Gabriel. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Menchaca. And who is next? Councilmember.
Hey, now I'm scared. What's this violence? This is San Gabriel, right? Very nice, quiet, slow San Gabriel? Well, what do you mean violent? Oh boy, maybe it was part of the city I don't know yet. Well, sounds good. I'll have to look for it. I just wanted to say that I hope everyone had a great holiday season and a Happy New Year. So, thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Councilmember Ding?
Yeah, to everyone, it's a Happy New Year. And a Happy New Year, it's for the 2024 January 1st, but I also say Happy New Year for next year, Lunar New Year. Okay, so also our city, the first time it's a 2 days event for celebrate the Lunar New Year and the Latin festival. Last 2 weeks, I think I attended like San Gabriel Car and sanitation. And CARG, they have the energy committee. It's really like have a lot of like provide a lot of general maybe grant or fund from the federal and state, and maybe city staff. I think maybe they're already to learning something if we have this kind of similar project. So don't waste the opportunity to get a fund from the federal and the state. And another it's for the sanitation. So we I think in the city of Carson have the pure water. It's also the environmental. They recycle water and then reuse it. It's their facility looks. I remember they open for public if you wanted to join to visit their facility, and maybe Mark can let Nancy to find out what's the schedule. Encourage our resident to visit. Yeah, and I like your 6 to 6. I don't want to say anything. Just like it 6 to 6. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ding. Okay, I have a just brief couple of things to report. First of all, I just want to reaffirm that everyone knows that 2024 Lunar New Year Lantern Festival will be taking place on February 17 and 18, Saturday and Sunday. And second thing is I would like to special thanks to our public works crews and their diligent efforts in installing the new wooden deck and replacing the rotten wood side rails on the pedestrian bridge near Lugo Park. That's been damaged so long, and we have received many complaints almost every month. But now we finally get that replaced. Even that is just a temporary solution, but this is really a significant improvement already, and it was complete in time for the school year. So ensuring the safety of the pedestrians and students' safety. So I really want to say thanks, Mark, and you coordinate with Greg at the Public Work for this repair. And on January 7th, I had a privilege to attend an event that hosted by the Chinese American Military Support, the camps. It was truly inspiring to witness that and the dedication of so many Chinese American who serve our country, upholding our freedom and democracy. And during my interaction with the members of the Chinese American military support, I was encouraged by their strong interest in supporting future events in our city. And the last thing I would say, I graduated from California State University, Los Angeles, but I'm in San Gabriel now. So that makes sense for that, the family's son, right? The brother sons. So it's really a great opportunity if we will be having those popular movie themes that we can generate more people that they can fall in love when they visit our city. And so closed session now. Tonight's meeting will be adjourned in memory of Anita L. Maxey, a 37-year resident of St. Gabriel. Mrs. Maxey's strong belief in education and her lifelong dedication to teaching inspired many young minds during her time at Benton Harbor, Tucson, and Garvey School District, and Rosemead Adult Education. The impact she made as a teacher has left an impression on many lives. The next regular city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 6, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. and meeting adjourned at 9:32 p.m. Thank you. Sure. Okay.